this is the most shameful U-turn yet, in my opinion. And I'm just... 45 minutes notice, apparently, that was given to Parliament to attend this debate. Obviously, the benches opposite were relatively empty. That's there to make the opposition look bad, even though that was a terrible use of scrutiny, because all ministers need scrutiny on their policies, and clearly they were trying to dodge that. So well done to Katie Lamb MP for showing up for that. But the reality is even reading that Home Office spokesperson's statement, it's quite clear they're saying they're not doing local inquiries. They're saying local, as you said, locally funded support. That's not the same thing. And quite frankly, the 5 local inquiries weren't good enough in the first place. We needed a national inquiry. Now, that was already turned down. And this is shameless, Patrick. One day before recess, so they know they can't be held accountable. How utterly cowardly.
How do you genuinely feel about it? In your heart of hearts, I know
I'm not lying to you about how I feel about Patrick.
No, I'm asking you genuinely, if it was you there who was Prime Minister or you were Jess Phillips or whatever, do you think you would have just gone ahead with what Yvette Cooper had said?
Look, I think we have to also just zoom out a bit and point out that this was not a political issue at the last election. Not to say that it's not serious, but this idea that somehow beastly Labour is sort of conspiring against the will of the British people, where the Conservatives had nothing to say about this the last election, and Reform, they did mention it in their manifesto fine, but they were not calling for a national inquiry or separate local inquiries either. This is an issue that has developed in the last couple of months. All parties are responding to it. It's also not based on any kind of new information. It's based on a historic crime.
What's happened, Jonathan, is that the Prime Minister has moved on. He's seen adolescence. He's gone, right, that's how we're going to tackle misogyny. That's how we're going to solve the rape guns. We're going to play that like a documentary in kids' schools, and we're going to demonise white working-class lads over communities that are perpetrating terrible, terrible crimes in this country.
This is not a racial issue.
Well, unfortunately, it is. It is. As Katie Lamb said today, they are predominantly Pakistani rape gangs, and we cannot escape the truth of that. We have to face up to the reality, because if we keep on hiding from it, we are going to perpetuate the same thing.
I tell you, we should have an inquiry about the epidemic of sexual violence that happens in this country all the time, and that it's not a racial issue. And you know there are.
But this is an isolated issue that has been replicated up and down the country,
Why? Look, I'm not.
It needs to be addressed for us to move forward as a country.
I'm not downplaying this crime at all. But there is a vastly skewed emphasis on this particular aspect of child sexual violence compared to all the other kinds.
Because it's so heinous, and because it would never happen in any other country. You would never hear the kinds of defences that you're hearing from you if these were Pakistani girls in Lahore who were being systemically raped by white British men from South Shields. That's the reason why.
I'm not defending anything.
No, but the thing is, if this was somewhere else, everything that you're saying right now, that would even be a conversation anywhere else. Literally, not a single person will stand up and say, "But what about this atrocity? And what about that?" Like, no.
I'm not using whataboutism either. I'm not saying it's not serious. I'm saying
the reason why this is such a big deal. The reason why this is such a big deal is because we believe, many people believe, and there's been evidence to support that authorities who are elected people who we pay our taxes to, who are involved in a cover-up at the highest degree. How can people trust the government? How can people trust to have wider inquiries into sexual abuse if they can't trust the people who are elected to do it?
Well, how could you even trust the government appointing a KC to go through that?
Got to start somewhere.
Come on, I mean, you have to have some level of trust somewhere.
An independent person away from councils would be a start.